welcome to the channel. Blue Dragon here with the weekly Wednesday video. This time I'm sharing the first of a two-part video celebrating Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, much like how I did a two-parter for the Irish American Heritage Month. I mean St. Patrick's Day, but I just celebrated the whole damn month. That's what I'm doing here with this video. After starting this character study using a photo of one of my great aunts who is from the Philippines, she was born in Manila, it became very quickly apparent that I wasn't going to have time to squeeze in all the information that I've been looking up, and also doing this character study. Like, in the background, I do two things. I do a pen sketch of the photograph, which is not perfect, but it was just a pen sketch. And then I did a character study trying to put those features onto a different character, like a cartoony character, and I'm not entirely happy with how that came out. So it became very apparent that in order for me to get comfortable copying the features from the photograph, and also there was just so much information that I've been able to find that I want to share, that it just makes more sense to have a two-parter. While I'm working in the background, I am going to be talking a little bit about my own Asian heritage. I'm also going to highlight some Filipino and Filipina YouTubers that I personally enjoy. Before we get into this video, I wish to make one thing Word of Wednesday abundantly clear. While I am proud of my Asian American heritage, it would be disingenuous for me to say I have in any way lived the Asian experience. Here's a photograph of my paternal grandmother and grandfather. She was half Filipina. She's lived the Asian American experience. Without being too crude, she looks Asian, and yes, she did suffer from discrimination. Here's some photos of my dad. He kinda lived the Asian American experience. He lived very much the rural American hillbilly life. My dad had the conservative rural hillbilly upbringing, and I had the liberal nature hillbilly upbringing. I don't know. But anyway, I've got some photos of my dad's. He, in part, lived the Asian American experience. Mostly he got called Latino slurs because they couldn't tell the difference. Meanwhile, my uncle and my aunts, they looked more quote-unquote traditionally Asian, and so they got slammed with the Asian slurs. Here's me in all my awkward glory. I never got called racial slurs because, just look at me. I just look like your average mousy white girl. Okay, well, maybe not average. I definitely not normal looking at all. It's no wonder I was made fun of, but you know what? I don't give two fucks. I'm glad I let my freak flag fly. But obviously, I'm not detectably Asian. Why am I going through all of this? As I said in last week's video at the end of the video, my goal here is to not take away from anyone's actual lived experience. Though I have seen and witnessed this kind of thing, it's not something I've never been the victim or survivor of racially based hate crimes. So while I'm hailing my Filipino ancestry, I'm doing this out of pride for that background. I'm not doing it because I've had, any discrimination. I want to bring awareness to this because I know people outside of my family, friends, that I worry about. So I feel compelled to celebrate, Asian Pacific American Month in support of my friends, acquaintances, and family. If that makes sense, I hope it does. I don't really talk about it that much on this channel, and I don't want people to think that I'm ashamed of it or hiding anything, because I do know that's kind of how my dad dealt with it, and I don't think that was a very healthy way of dealing with it, but that's my personal opinion. And opinions are like assholes. So yeah, I just wanted to do this as kind of a support for the people that I know and love, and kind of celebrate them, just like I do like in Black History Month. I do things to celebrate people that I respect and know. So my father did not have a very close relationship with his mother for reasons I'm not going to get into, but as a result of that, I really don't have too many photographs of her other than the one that I showed earlier. And of course my grandma and grandpa's wedding photo, which is hanging up on the wall in my parents' house in Illinois, so I don't have access to that. So I'm using a photo of one of my great aunts. My grandmother was born in Manila in May of 1923. My great-grandmother was widowed with 2 daughters and remarried an American who was an English teacher and a massive piece of shit. Moving along. My grandmother had many siblings. They were a traditional Catholic family. My great-uncle Frank, her younger brother, was one of the coolest guys I have ever met. I used to love when he would come to town. He lived in Washington State and had a fishing boat, and they would have these big family get-togethers, and he would make the trip all the way to Illinois. And when he did, he always had like really fresh fish, salmon, shit like that. Stuff that I don't eat anymore since I've gone vegan, but I have been working on replacements for these things. But he was such a cool guy. You know, he was very jovial, just had that glitter of kindness in his eye. I mean, I met him a handful of times. I've never heard anybody say a mean thing about him, and just from my own personal experience, he was honestly one of the coolest people ever. When he was 14, the Japanese invaded the Philippines. So we're talking about World War II here. I realize that we're getting to where this is passing out of living memory, but at any rate, at that age, I mean, he had to grow up so quickly because at 14 he joined the resistance army against the Japanese. Later, when he got older, he ended up joining the Navy, eventually settling in Washington State, as I mentioned a minute ago. So I used to write him on and off. As little as I knew him, I had a better relationship with my great uncle than I did my grandmother. But I just thought I would share that because he was born in the Philippines also, but eventually everyone ended up moving here to the States. It was also during World War II that my grandmother met my grandfather. Both of my grandfathers, both my maternal and paternal. Maternal and paternal? Yeah, that's right. Both of them fought in World War II in the Pacific Islands, but in different islands. I think my maternal grandfather was more so around Fiji, maybe? And some other places, whereas the Philippines is where my paternal grandfather got stationed. I can't get any confirmation of whether or not this is true, but I will say that my mom was very interested in my grandmother whenever she was dating my dad before they got married. My mom's always been very open-minded to hearing other people's experiences and talking to them about their childhood. So this is what she relayed to me that she said my grandmother told her. Apparently, during World War II, my grandmother met her future husband while crossing a narrow bridge going in opposite directions, and I feel like she was implying that it was like love at first sight. Very romanticized story, very, very cute. I mean, I have no reason to doubt that was similar to how it happened, because apparently from everyone that I've talked to, my grandpa worshipped the ground she walked on. They got married shortly after the war in 1946 in Washington State. He moved from the Philippines to Washington, and that's actually where my dad and a part of his family was born. Eventually they moved to Illinois to be closer to my quote-unquote dad's people. You know, that's how we talk, you know, our people, your people. That's how you talk in rural Illinois. Since the pandemic started, I've taken a lot of interest in learning more about the Philippines and that part of my background. It's something that's always kind of nagged at me and that I've always been interested in, but my dad was not interested in his Asian heritage and didn't know anything about my grandma's upbringing. He knew nothing. If he knew something, he didn't like to talk about his childhood. And so the only tidbits I've been able to garner are stories that my mom had gotten from my grandma, as well as I did try to strike up the relationship with my dad's side of the family again, but I backed off because there are reasons we don't talk to them, which I found out there's reasons why we don't deal with this side of the family, but I wasn't, what very little I know of that didn't even come from my dad. It had to come from my mom, who was interested in learning more because like I've mentioned before, she's always been very inquisitive. She's the reason why I like to learn about people from around the world. So the only other stuff I know about the Philippines is what little I've been able to glean and politely find out from friends and acquaintances, which I don't like to I don't like to put pressure on people to talk about like things that they might not know about, especially if you're like second or third generation Asian. You're not gonna necessarily know what the quote-unquote motherland is like, much like my dad's siblings. None of them cared. None of them know really that much about the Philippines, so it's kind of silly to assume that just because someone looks Asian or is of Asian descent, that they're gonna know about the places that either their parents came from or that they lived in when they were kids. So for me, it feels like a very touchy subject because the last thing I want to do is be rude to someone and put pressure on them to talk about their personal life. I do have a few friends who are eager to talk about it, and I really appreciate them because, well, hell, I gotta give a shout out to my friend Joy. She's actually given me some recipes that her mother cooked from the Philippines, and I've been able to veganize these authentic, some of them. Obviously, there's gonna be like balut. There's no way I'm gonna be able to veganize. I don't even know that she ate it. She never talks about having eaten that, but I will say it's been cool that she's like my Sailor Moon friend. We play Stardew Valley, and she's really, again, I don't like to be invasive, but like whatever she wants to talk about, whenever she wants to open up, I'm cool to hear it, because for me, that's kind of the only way that I have to learn about that part of my heritage, aside from, you know, doing research and watching documentaries, which documentaries, I don't know how much they really tell you about the actual lived experience, but, you know, I learn a little bit that way. But yeah, that kind of brings me to why I'm interested in this and why I specifically want to highlight the Philippines, because obviously it's in my heritage, but also much like a lot of some of the, you know, the Asian islands, or, you know, places like Tibet, or gosh, even Vietnam, Cambodia, there's a lot of like Asian Americans who are very underrepresented. You know, a lot of times when people hear Asian, all they think are Korean and Chinese and Japanese, and that's it. But it's like, there's so many, like, I mean, even India, Asia encompasses so many different cultures, you know, from Burmese. Is it Burmese now? Is it Burmese? Burma, now known as Myanmar. My geography and history is so fucked up. But at any rate, there's so many like different cultures that kind of get underrepresented. And I would argue that Filipinos are one of those Asian cultures, Filipino American, that just kind of goes unnoticed by the masses. So in this part of the video, I want to highlight some Filipino or Filipina YouTubers that I personally enjoy and follow. They are not necessarily American. In fact, the first one I'm going to list, she's Filipina, but she's lived in Australia. She's living in Japan now. But I really like her channel. It is Create with Carmina. She is the vegan YouTuber, and I have been wanting to veganize a lot of these meals. Aside from like when I was a little kid, you know, having different types of pancit. There's several different types of pancit. At family get-togethers, you know, I've had pancit and flan. Flan was like my grandma's favorite fucking dessert. I personally am not a fan of it, but maybe I'd like it as an adult. I don't know. I'd have to find a way to cook it vegan and try it out. But yeah, Carmina is fucking awesome because like on her videos, she most often speaks in English.
Hey everyone, welcome to Create with Carmina. My name is Carmina Famila. Not familiar, but let's get familiar when you subscribe to my channel, you know what I mean? So today we're gonna be making some classic Filipino food, adobo.
But she also does videos where she speaks in, what is it, Bisaya?
Hey everyone! Welcome to Create with Carmina. Daghan biya kayong interesado sa akong mga Filipino videos nga akong what I eat in a day o akong Filipino adobo video. So karon mag what I eat in a video ko pero mag Bisaya ko. Hey everyone! Welcome to Create with Carmina. Sa video na to, magsasalita ako ng Tagalog kasi ang video natin ngayon ay what I eat in a day vegan Filipino food.
There's several languages that are used in the Philippines, and apparently I'd never heard of this language, but Bisaya. My grandma didn't speak that. She spoke English, Spanish, and Tagalog. But yeah, so it's really cool because like she'll put up the English subtitles for those of us who, like me, I can't speak any language even though I took Spanish and Japanese. I can kind of muddle through reading Spanish, but don't ask me to speak it. I would butcher the language. Anyway, go check her out if you want to find some awesome vegan Filipino Filipino recipes, and also she does like, if you're in Japan or if you're in Australia, she's got videos of different food stuffs that she does like tastings of shit. Kind of like the Vegan Zombie, who is an American YouTuber that I like. Actually, most of my favorite vegan YouTubers are Asian American or Asian Canadian, like Asian Canadian mostly. Well, wait, that is American. So yeah, people like Mommy Tang, Mary's Test Kitchen, Cheap Lazy Vegan, the Viet Vegan. These are all like my favorite fucking YouTubers, and they're American because they're on the continent, so it counts. Yeah, okay, let's move along. I found this dude, Mikey Bustos. I stumbled across his channel when I was looking up a Filipino celebrity, and to be honest, I'm really glad I did. I was looking up a dude from Black Eyed Peas, but yeah, this guy does like parody videos. Sometimes he does a rap. He's done one, he's done a couple of Lady Gaga where he's talking about the Philippines, but he's doing it to like pop songs.
Watch me now, I will show you how I am such a pro at tinikling dance.
It's fucking hilarious. I love him. I'm gonna link his channel. You should definitely check him out. Now, obviously, I'm not taking everything that he says as 100% fact. I realize they are parody videos, but it is kind of cool to see a little bit of like the stuff that like he's experienced and kind of see it in like a comical way. So Mikey Bustos, fucking awesome. And also, it's his video about Filipino mythical creatures that inspired next week's video, and I'll talk more about that later. So, oh my god, let's not forget Tanico Pantua. He says it better in his video intros.
Hey guys, it's Cynic Pantua.
He is an Asian American illustrator. I watched a video about him talking about work visas and, you know, trying to maintain a work schedule at various studios here in the US during his education. Actually, it's interesting because I didn't even know he was Filipino. Obviously, he's American now. He has since gotten his green card, but I just watched his videos anyway because they got suggested to me, and he's entertaining, but he also gives you like inside information on animation and art in general. Like, I don't do animation, but I like to watch and listen to his videos because I find them inspirational and feel like he has good suggestions and ideas.
And today I'd like to talk about how I usually go about coloring my 2D animation. Now, these are strategies that I personally use that work for me and have helped me stay productive and keep on track with my projects before the due date. And today I'd like to talk about what it is to be a jack of all trades.
So when I watched this video that he had done talking about how hard it is to kind of break into animation and get your visa and keep your visa here in the US, and he did mention that he was from the Philippines, I was so excited. I mean, even though again I didn't have that, I don't know, it's kind of weird to explain because I don't know, I just get excited when I see somebody being successful who's come from the Philippines, just kind of knowing how much struggle a lot of people from the Philippines suffer, along with a lot of Latino and Latino Americans. There are also a lot of Filipino Americans who are laborers, like in the farm industry, especially in California. I'm sure there's a good number of people here in Oregon too, but particularly in California. Anyway, I always get excited when I see Filipinos in the spotlight or Filipino Americans in the spotlight, because to me it's like, yes, at least someone is getting out there and putting their name out there. So I was just stoked. And besides, his videos are just really good quality, and it's really cool to watch his animation process. There's a lot you can learn from him even if you're not an animator, so definitely check out his channel. He's pretty fucking cool. Tune in next week when I'm going to talk a little bit about some Filipino mythological creatures. I'm going to try to find some more YouTube channels that are from actual Filipinos so you can check them out, because they're going to know a hell of a lot more about their own culture than I am. And And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the drawing that I do, and I will share those Filipino celebrities that I personally enjoy. Question of the week. Are there any YouTubers that are either Filipino American or Asian American in general that you follow that you really like to watch? And if so, please let me know who they are, because maybe I might be interested in their work. But also, why do you like them? That's the question this week. If you want to support the channel, all the support links are down in the description. Aside from Patreon, I've also got one-time donation options, Ko-fi, shit like that. I want to personally thank my patrons. I just every time, thank you. You're amazing. You help keep me motivated and help keep me going. You help me afford different resources so I can try to improve my art, so thank you so much. Oh yeah, you can also like, sub, do the bell thing. If this video is on BitChute, share the video, whatever you do over there. I don't know. But yeah, thanks. This is a really shitty way to end the video. I'm just gonna do my outro. Peace and love. Fare you well. Keep on trucking.